Hi guys, thank you so much for stopping by. This is Treasure's Craft. My name is Treasure Peter. If today is the first time of coming across my channel, thank you so much for coming. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you. I really appreciate you coming back. On today's tutorial, I'll be making this beautiful semi palazzo corporate trouser, and I'll be making it in a very unique and very easy way. This method was a method that I learned from my mom, and it actually works for any size. I've been using this method for a very long time now to make trousers for people, and I notice it fits perfectly. And this method is a very easy method to understand, and it doesn't require you knowing your crotch depth or your crotch measurement. Trust me, it is something you would like to learn to know. Even if you know how to cut and sew a trouser already, you're still going to benefit from this video. So stick around and watch to the end, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Thank you. Welcome back once again, guys. So in order to cut this trouser, we are using 1.5 yard of crepe material. So you can actually use more than 1.5 yard depending on your body size. I used 1.5 yard, and I still noticed that it wasn't really enough for my pocket because the trouser was a bit free. And then I also checked the stretchy part. That's the stretchy part that I'm going to be using for the body area. So this is a crepe fabric, but it's a bit stretchy, so I'll just go ahead to fold my front part first. So in order to determine the inches we are going to use in folding the front part, you have to take your hip measurement divided by 4, and then you add extra up to like 5 inches allowance. And this is depending on what you actually want to sew. If you want a very free palazzo trouser, you need to add more than 5 inches extra allowance because you want it very free. So I went ahead to measure from the top part to my length of my desired length of trouser. And then from there I added extra 2.5 inches for my folding allowance. I just added extra inches, so you need to add up to 2 inches because it's better it is longer than it being shorter. So if it is longer while you are folding in, you're going to know how you're going to fold it in, but if it's shorter, that's where the problem will be. After that, I went ahead to mark my hip measurement divided by 4, and I just marked. That is where I usually use as my crotch depth. So if you actually want to measure your crotch depth, it's actually okay, but this method that I'm using is for those people that you do not measure the person's crotch depth or your crotch depth that you're using. So this is actually the method I use, and I discovered that it also fits whether you measure your crotch depth or not. If you use this method, it will also fit. And this is because I'm going to add my waistband. But if you don't have the intention of adding your waistband, please always come down by 2 inches and use that 2 inches as your crotch depth. But if you have the intention of adding your waistband, whenever you use your hip circumference divided by 4 as your crotch depth, trust me, it will fit perfectly. And then after that, the next thing I went ahead to do was to add allowance at the side. I added up to 1.5 inch allowance at the side. I just went ahead to mark a straight line from the waist part to down the down part of my trouser. So this allowance actually serves as the seam allowance for my trouser. So whenever I'm joining the side of my trouser, I take note of that allowance. So the next thing I'm doing is to take my hip circumference divided by 4 on that line. I marked what I had, and then from that point I marked 2.5 inches. This is just my own standard way of taking my crotch extension for the front. I usually take 2.5 inches no matter how fat, how small the person is. That's what I usually take, except for children. If it's for children, I'll not extend it up to 2.5 inches, maybe 1.5 or 2 or 1 inch. So the next thing I'm doing now is to extend from the hip line to the waistline. I extended that line in a straight line form, and then after that, from that point I took my waist circumference divided by 4, and then I added extra 1/2 inch, and that 1/2 inch is just to join the crotch area at the middle point. And then after that, I added extra 1.5 inch for my seam allowance. After that, in order to curve my crotch, I went up by 1.5 inch at the center, at that axis, like so, and then I'm just going to connect it to meet up that 1.5 inch, and then I connected it back to the line, just like so. So I did not take it too high before connecting it to the line. I just connected it in that manner. So the next thing I went ahead to do was to just extend my side seam allowance to meet up with this point at my hip line. So you're just going to extend it and curve it. So I use my ruler to just connect the line. So just see the way I'm connecting it in a curved form to meet my hip line. After that, from that my hip line, I came down by 2 inches, and then I went ahead to mark straight, and that's where I'm going to take my round lap measurement. So after measuring my round lap, I just went ahead to take what I had from my seam allowance point, and then I added about 1/2 inch allowance for my joining at that point. And I also took from my waistline to my knee line. You can go ahead to measure yourself from your waist line to your knee line, whatever you have, you take it, and this is just to determine how wide I want my trouser to be. If you want your trouser to be very wide, you can take it straight from your lap down, but if you want it to have a little bit of shape, you can also take it according to how you want the shape to be. So you can measure your round knee and add allowance based on what you want. So after marking it, I went ahead to just connect it like so. So I also went ahead to do the same thing to the hem part of my trouser. So I determined how wide I wanted the down part of my trouser to be. So if you want it to be tight, you also know how to take it. However you want it, you just take it accordingly. So I went ahead to just mark it, adding 1/2 inch at that point that I'm going to be using in joining that center area. So after that, I went ahead to just cut out my trouser. I just followed the line, went ahead to cut out my trouser. I was so careful to make sure to pin up my material because it's a crepe material and it was actually moving. It was swaying away from where I kept it. So after cutting our front part, we'll just use it to place on another material to bring out the back part of our trouser. So I went ahead to also place another material, and I carried the front material to place on the material that I'm going to be removing the back part. So I made sure I arranged it very well, but I kept a space at the up part of about 1.5 inches, and also kept a space at this other side of up to 2.5 inches. And then after that, I went ahead to take out my crotch extension for the back. I added extra 1.5 inch. This is actually what I usually do, and I've actually been using this method, and I noticed that it actually fits whoever I use it for. So it's actually a method that my mom taught me. So at the upper part, I extended my upper part for the back with 1 inch, and then at the center of the back, I extended it with 1.5 inch. I also used the 1.5 inch down. I just connected it with 1.5 inch. I came down with 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch, and when I reached a certain point, I came down with 1 inch, and then I just connected it to that line. So watch how I'm connecting it. See the point where I had to connect it together, and I connected it to meet my 1.5 inch. I hope you understand this. If you do not understand, drop a comment on the comment section. I'll try to explain further. And then at the upper part, I will extend it in a slant form to meet my normal waist. So I extended it in a slant form to meet my normal waist at this side, because the side has to align. So the reason why I'm adding that 1 inch at the up part is because of the way our back is. So if you do not have the 1 inch, it will affect your trouser. It will make the back part to come down and not look normal. But if you add that 1 inch, it will give you a very normal shape at the back part. So after that, at the other side, I also added 1.5 inch for my back side part. I added 1.5 inch, came down 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch. but when I came down to a certain point at like around the knee, I kept on reducing 1/4, 1 inch, and at the knee part I reduced it to up to 1 inch, 1 inch, and I took it like that to the down part of my trouser. And then I went ahead to cut my trouser, taking note of the lines. So for the side, I cut every place to be equal for the side, but for the other center part, I cut it according to the lines. So this is like a semi palazzo trouser. It's not too free, neither is it too tight. So guys, if you have any question on this, please drop it on the comment section and I'll do well to reply you to whatever question you have. So this is where I was cutting it. My material was actually moving and I had to pin it down so I'll be able to cut it well. So after cutting it, I separated the back from the front, and then I just went ahead to work on the front. So at the front part, at the top, I'm going to be reducing the center front by 1/2 inch, and this is because I just wanted to sit properly at my belly area. So I came down by 1/2 inch and I slanted it to my allowance part. So just come down by 1/2 inch at the center part and then slant it back to the allowance part. So the next thing we are doing for the front is to add our pocket, and then from my allowance part I took out 2 inches and then I came down by 7 inch. I had to draw out my allowance part, so I'll be sure that that is actually where I'm starting to mark my pocket from. So I came down by 7 inches and I connected my pocket like so to meet with the 2 inches that I had removed. So this is just my way of cutting this pocket. You can decide to curve the pocket or you can decide to slant it just like I am doing. So I went ahead to just cut out my pocket like so. So after cutting my pocket, I discovered that my material was not enough, so I needed to use my pattern paper to cut out the pocket to show you guys how I cut out my pocket. So for the length of my pocket, I used 12 inches, and for the width on fold, I used 8 inches. So the next thing I'll go ahead to do will be to open up my pattern paper, and then I'll place my pocket sides on one side of my pattern paper, and then I'm going to just cut it out. So I'm using it to represent my pocket. So I'm going to, because my material was not enough, I'm going to go ahead to just try to join it and see what I will come up with. So at this point, I just went ahead to use my marker to just trace out my pocket. I made sure that the side part aligned with the side of my pocket, and then I connected the top part from the top part to the other top part. So I'll just go ahead to just cut it out, and I'll later use it to cut out on my main fabric for the pocket. So after cutting it, I went ahead to just fold it to place it and making sure that the side aligns, and then I went ahead to notch the center point. So this is it. After I went ahead to place my pattern paper to cut out the pocket on the fabric, I had to join my fabric because it wasn't enough, so I had to join it with the taffeta, and I made sure that the part that it was going to show was actually the crepe material part. So the next thing I did was to place my front part, front side to the front side, right side facing the right side, and I went ahead to join the center part from the top. I joined it with 1/2 inch and I stopped at 1/2 inch before the end. So I'll also go ahead to join the back part just like I am going to do to the front, to just join the center part from the top to the down part, and I will leave 1/2 inch at the edge. After joining the center part, this was what I had, and I left 1/2 inch at the edge as I said earlier. Now it's time to fix our pocket, so I'll just go ahead to place my pocket, making sure that the right side is facing the right side. So I went ahead to just place my pocket and I joined it at the edge by 1/2 inch from the top part, and making sure to curve, just make sure to curve at that other side, which is the allowance area. So I'll just take it to my machine to join both sides by half an inch, and I'll use my hemming gum to join them. So this is the back after joining the middle part, the center part. So the next thing I'll do is to take out my dart. I actually like adding that to the back part of my trouser, and then I'll use my nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2 to determine my dart area. My nipple to nipple divided by 2 is 3.5, plus half an inch is 4 inches. So I went ahead to notch at the 4 inches part. That's where I'm going to take my dart. So I went ahead to just notch both sides by the 4 inches from the center. So after that, I'll just take my dart by 3 inches. I'll take the length of my dart to be 3 inches because it's a trouser. I don't want it to come down too much, so I'll just mark 3 inches, and then I'll go ahead to take half an inch at my dart and slant it to 3 inches. So after taking it, I'll show you guys what I have. This is the front part. So for this front part, I use my hemming gum to join the pocket area, like I said. So I'll just use my scissors to notch around the pocket area, and then after that, I'll go ahead to take it to my ironing board to just press the iron to the hemming gum to just iron the pocket, pressing it with the hemming gum so that it will lay flat and it will be neat. So I actually recommend that you use your hemming gum to iron your pocket area, to join your pocket area before ironing it, so that it will look very nice and it will give you that very neat finishing. So this is the back part. After I was done taking out my dart, this is how it looked like. So after ironing the pocket at the front side, this is how it looks like. So it has given it a very neat finishing at the pocket part, so it looks very flat and very nice. So you go ahead to just remember the part where we notch. Make sure that the notch area is the center part, well folding in your pocket. You just fold your pocket, and then the first thing you do is to just go ahead and join the down part together. So after joining that part out, you just go ahead to just press sew at the edge at the side, making sure that your pocket is there, and also sew from the notch part at the top part, and it will align. And that is all. You do the same for the other part. So this is what I have after I was done sewing out my pockets. My pocket is looking so neat and so fine. This is the inner part. I made sure to hide the taffeta at the inner part. So our pockets and our front side is ready. So I'll just go ahead to join the back part to the front part. So the first place I'm going to join is the crotch area, the under part. So remember the half an inch that we kept at the edge while joining the center to the center. That half an inch is what we are going to attach first. We're going to attach the right sides to the right sides, the back to the front. So you take the right sides of the back and attach it to the right sides of the front, and then you're going to just join it in by half an inch from the up part to the down part. Just join it straight by half an inch. You're going to join the other side too. I'll just take it to my machine to join it, and then I'll show you guys what I have. So this is what I had after I was done joining it. So this is the under part of the trouser. It has a hole at that center part, so you just go ahead to just close that hole. Just sew it to close that hole at the center part. You're just going to sew it across to close the hole. So after that, you arrange your trouser, making sure that the front is facing the back part, and then you go ahead to close the side of your trouser. So I'll go ahead to just close the side of my trouser. Then for my zipper, I am going to put my zip at the right side of my trouser. Because of that, I'm going to leave allowance for zip at the right side. I'll leave allowance of about 7 inches and close down from the 7 inches. And then for the other left side, I'm going to join everything, taking note of the seam allowance. So at this point, I was done joining it, so it's just left for me to fix my waistband and then I'll fix my zipper and also hem the down part of my trouser, and then I'll just do that and show you guys what I have. But note, the down part of our trouser, the back side will be longer than the front side. You just have to cut it out so it will be equal. I observe it's always longer, so you just have to cut it out to be equal before we attach our waistband. So for this waistband, this is how I made it. I took 31 inches. My actual waist circumference is actually 28, but I added extra 4 inches, which is 31. And then for the length, I took 5 inches. I used my paper gum to interface it. Then I folded in by ½ inch and ironed down, and then I also folded in the waistband, leaving ½ inch at the edge for joining. So after joining, my waistband will become 2 inches for the length. So it's now time to fix our waistband. Remember the ½ inch we left at the edge. We are going to just join it with that ½ inch. Just take the waistband, the right side of the waistband, and join it to the back part of the waist of our trouser, like so. Just join it by ½ inch from round the waist, like so. And then after joining it, I'll show you guys what I have. If you've watched up to this point, please don't forget to like and also subscribe. So at this point, this is where we have, so I'll just go ahead to fold it in, and then you can use your pin to just pin it down so that it will align very well. And after that, I'll just go ahead to sew at the edge of my trouser. So there are actually other ways you could do this waistband, but this way is like one of the simplest method you could do it. You could actually just join it together, making joining to show at the back. And then part. Guys, this is it after I was done sewing my waistband. This is how it looks, very neat and so fine. As you see, the back part looking so fine. I went ahead to fold in the end part by 2 inches. See how it looks, so neat and fine. I'll just go ahead to my iron to iron it, and then I'll go ahead to fix my zipper. So this is it. I'm about to fix my invisible zip. If you want me to do a video on how to fix your invisible zip very well, please let me know on the comment section, and then I'll consider doing the video. So this is it. I've gone ahead to fix my invisible zipper. This is how my trouser looks very fine and so neat, and the finishing is so fine. If you've been using other methods to sew your trouser, you really need to try this method, and trust me, it will fit you no matter the size you have. Just try using the formula that I'm using for the crotch extension and everything, and it will fit very well. So guys, this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. Please like the video and also comment on the comment section if it was helpful, and don't forget to subscribe if you've not subscribed. So this is when I was trying out the trouser. See how fine and well fitted it is. If you've not tried making a trouser before, you really need to try, and you really need to give this method a try if you've not used this method before. And trust me, your trouser will sit perfectly no matter your size. Whatever size you are, just give it a try, and let me know on the comment section if you've given this a try, and let me know the outcome on the comment section too. So guys, please also turn on your notification bell icon so that when I drop another video, you'll be notified. See you guys in my next video. Bye.